Addy soldiers. Cold coffee is for pleasure, hot coffee is for business. Let's freaking go. The internet has been yelling at me to make an updated tattoo tour video since the last tattoo tour, and I'm nothing but not a people pleaser and also a little bit vain. So yes, I very much would like to show you the thousands of dollars worth of ink that I have gotten put on myself. Now, tattoo tour videos tend to draw in some new people, so if you don't know me, hi, I'm Rachel. I am a book blogger and I work in publishing, but just like in my username, I also used to model, and I modeled for consistently about 9 years. In my early 20s, I also went through a bunch of health issues, and so because of that, I started looking at my body in a very different way, and that, coupled with me wanting to leave the industry of modeling and fashion, is why I started getting tattoos in the first place. And I love the way that tattoos look on me, but also how they make me feel. Like, once I started getting tattooed and more heavily tattooed, really changed my relationship with how I see myself, and I'm so much more confident. And of course, quick disclaimer, I am a white lady who lives in Canada, comes from a middle-class family. I am very privileged to have the life that I have and be able to spend my money on getting tattoos. However, it is my money, I can spend it however I want, and I honestly don't care if you don't like my tattoos because they're on my body. I paid for them, I have to look at them every day. But if you want to pay me to remove them, my PayPal is AModelWho'sRead@gmail.com. My last tattoo tour was June of 2022? 2021? What year is it? Where are we? My last tattoo tour was in May of 2022. The last year and a half, I've really focused on building up my legs, my leg sleeves, my pants. What do you call when you get leg tattoos? Because you get sleeves, and aren't pants just sleeves for your legs? Like, what do you call that? Without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in. And here's to the 2023 tattoo tour. We'll start with my arms because you can see them. This was my well-planned pretty arm. This was my like whatever the fuck arm. So this one's a little bit more chaotic than this one. But this is an arm that I did plan, and I would say overall I think this is my most expensive piece. Actually, you can't even see it. There's the piece that's on my collarbone. I obviously did not plan to shoot this today or I would have worn a different shirt, but it's too late now. I don't want to reshoot the intro. My rose sleeve on my right arm was done in 3 pieces. I had these roses done first in February of 2020. Then I had the rose cap on my shoulder done in August of 2020. Which also, side note, don't get tattoos in August, okay? Trust me, it's a bad plan. I keep doing it, but it's a bad plan. And then in December of 2020, I got the final piece, which also has a little undead friend in it. Also, I name all the little creature tattoos that I have, and this raven skull is named Moor after the Morrigan. I got roses because I love florals and botanicals, and roses are my grandmother's favorite flower. I think I might eventually go back and get the artist to shade it a little bit more, especially because all of my other tattoos in comparison are quite dark, so it might be nice to have like a little bit of extra in the leaves or in the petals, but that's a problem for later, Rachel. And at the bottom is my first literary tattoo to show up today, and that is my quote from the Raven Boys, which is, "Be afraid and happy." If you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that I love the Raven Boys. There's something so magical about this series. Her writing in this series is so captivating, and I particularly love this quote because the full quote is, "If you cannot be unafraid, be afraid and happy." And it's a reference to how you can't fully live your life in fear all the time, and you have to remind yourself of the bright moments and strive for them. So I just think that's really beautiful. And lastly on this arm is actually the first tattoo that I ever got, and that is my ambigram tattoo. If you look at it this way, it says fantasy, but if you look at it this way, it says reality. Oh shit, I just blew your mind there for a second. I saw this ambigram on like Bronze Age Tumblr, and yes, I know I've used that joke before, but honestly, it's good. When I was like 12, maybe 11, and I remember hearing that if you wanted a tattoo, you had to want it for a long time, which didn't turn out to be the case now that I have adult money, but you know, at that time, and I suppose now that it's still a good lesson to follow. But I loved it so much that I printed it out, stuck it on my side table, and just like looked at it every day for 13 years. Finally, when I went to go and get my first tattoo, I knew it had to be this one. But as somebody who's loved reading and fantasy for as long as I can remember, I think it's just very nice to have the reminder that you can have fantasy, but you also have to have the reality, and that is just very representative of like who I am as a person. And I actually got my first tattoo the same time that my dad got his first tattoo because we decided to go and get tattooed together for a combination of my birthday and Father's Day. So I share multiple tattoos with him, including this next piece on this arm, and that is my blackberry half sleeve. Growing up on the west coast of BC, blackberries were a big part of my childhood. There was a lot of bushes that grew on my grandparents' farm and like outside of this beach that we used to go to all the time. And so when I brought up the idea of wanting to get a blackberry tattoo, my dad also said, oh, that's a great idea. Like, I would love to get that done as well, because he also grew up on the west coast of BC. But I had a very specific artist in mind who I wanted to do my blackberries, and she hadn't opened her books in like 2 years. So I was just begging to whatever deity was gonna listen to me that she would open her books and I could get it done. But while I was waiting for that, my dad snuck behind my back and booked a full blackberry sleeve with another artist who I also introduced him to. So for almost a calendar year, he was insufferably like, oh, when are you gonna get your blackberries done? Oh, you're gonna get blackberries? You're like copying me, my design? Thankfully, my artist opened her books and I could finally get my dad off my back. I also did this in one go. I did this in one 6-hour session, and oh boy, do I not recommend that. But it was all worth it. She's so beautiful. I love the way that it like curves around my shoulder. The other tattoo that I have on this arm I share with my father is my teeny tiny Stars and Stripe tattoo. Now, my last name is Sargent, hence the Stars and Stripes, and also why I say at ease soldiers. It was brought to my attention that the other day that I haven't explained that since like 2015, so sorry about that. But I'm not in the military, my family isn't in the military, like I don't even know what the military do. I may not be in the military, but every day I do serve. Okay. Now we are moving much farther down this arm. Yet again, I call this my whatever the fuck arm because I did not plan this very well, and that's totally on me. And this is actually the arm that I want to get the most removed or covered up. And here's another thing, like, not to say that I don't like these tattoos. Like, I do like them, and I don't necessarily regret any of them strongly. I just think in hindsight, I probably should have placed them better, or I should have thought a little longer if I wanted to get that specific tattoo in that specific place. We'll talk about the sword first, because this is actually the tattoo that I think I get the most compliments my most compliments on. My sword tattoo is a reference to my favorite book of all time, and that is The Starless Sea by Eirhyn Morgenstern. This is about a library that exists outside of space and time, and the only way to get to the library is if it offers you a key, and the motif that it will give you is a key, a bee, and a sword. So we have the key, the bee, and the sword. Also, because I designed this myself, I have in the vines the word rêveur, which is French for dreamers. The French are screaming. I'm very sorry with that accent. The Starless Sea is a love letter to libraries and language and magic and being able to tuck secrets into little pocket dimensions and finding magic in unexpected places and opening doors to new worlds. So I love the fact that now I always have a key to the Starless Sea on me. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is one of the tattoos that I regret the most because I regret the placement of it. So if you want to get a sword, I would recommend somewhere that is less curved than the front of your arm. The tattoo that takes up the most of my arm is actually something I got as a gap filler, and that is my huckleberry and fox jaw tattoo. Huckleberries are also something that I grew up with on the west coast. We had a big huckleberry bush in our backyard. This one also sticks out the most because it goes right to the base of my hand, so even if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt or like a jacket or something, this is the indicator that I am in fact cool even though I'm layered up. Summer is good for us tattoo people because you get to show off all the ink that you spent money on, but then winter comes and you're bundled up and no one knows that you're a cool badass unless you have wrist and or hand tattoos. I'm not brave enough to do my hands just yet, so this is my compromise. But see, I got these pieces because I was working around the script that is down my arm, which also straight on bone. Why do I keep doing this to myself? I'm an English major, I love studying old literature and epic poems, and this is a quote from Virgil's Aeneid, and in Latin it says, "If I cannot bring down heaven, then I will raise hell." I have a lot of fun telling people that it's a Bible verse. So I did actually come across this poem in university, but I have wanted to get it for a long time since I saw it in a Cassandra Clare novel. That's right. Rachel is a fake Virgil fan. You heard it here first, folks. I don't even remember what book it's from. It might be City of Glass, but it also might be City of Lost Souls. But as Clary Reborn, you know, I obviously have a strong attachment to the Mortal Instruments series. And like, look at those spine creases. Like, does this look like it was a book that belonged to someone who was mentally well as a teenager? I don't think so. Oh my god, we're still freaking on this arm. Okay, what else do I got? I got my snake. I got my little space snake. This is also one that I've named. This is Jormungandr, who has constellations and patterns from the sky within the body, so that's cool. We also have constellations. We have Gemini, which is me. Scorpio is my mom, and Capricorn is my dad. Don't get me wrong, this is a cool tattoo, and I do love Jormungandr, but I just think that, like, looking back on it, I wouldn't have chosen it again, if that makes sense. And I originally wanted the constellations as gap fillers, but I don't think the artist like placed them correctly. So this is one that I would consider either getting covered up or even maybe just like getting the constellations themselves removed. And as I'm talking about this, part of me is like, oh my god, Rachel, shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear about the bad decisions that you made with hundreds of dollars. But like, I think it's also important to be like, yeah, I did make a mistake. I'm not entirely happy with everything that I've gotten. And so like, I'm gonna be paying for that emotionally and literally to, you know, have it redone. Jormungandr is safe for now, but I don't know if he'll look like this in the future. Speaking of little creatures, let's move on to this little guy who is the darkest of this arm. So many people ask about him. Yes, I am 28 years old and have a dinosaur tattoo, and you know what? I love him. This is Nishi. In Scottish Gaelic, Loch Ness is pronounced Loch Nish, so Nishi. As both a dinosaur lover and someone of obvious Scottish descent, I thought that this would be a fantastic souvenir for when I went to Scotland in 2019. I love him so much. His shading is so good, and his nose is just so cute, and I love the idea of getting a tattoo instead of bringing home some like tacky magnet souvenir or like another plaid scarf. Fun fact, I actually auditioned to play the role of Claire's daughter in the second or third season of Outlander. Obviously I didn't get it because I am absolute shit at acting on camera. I say as I am filming a YouTube video, but no, acting, totally different gig. But I both visited the castle that Outlander is shot at and Loch Ness, so I thought that it was only appropriate to bring a little piece of Scotland home with me. Some more script that applies to the English side of my heritage is a King Arthur reference, and that is Excelsior. Technically it's also a Raven Boys reference, but shh, don't tell anyone. Excelsior comes from Arthurian legend and means onwards and upwards, and so is a reminder to always look onwards and upwards to greater things, and also don't let anybody treat you anything less than a king. Yes. To adventure! Last Raven Boys tattoo is my triple branch in the ditch of my arm. Usually tattoos are done with 3 to 4 needles, and this tattoo artist uses single needle, so it is extremely delicate and lovely and is these gorgeous birch branches. The 3 of Wands in tarot, it's meant to represent portals and balance, but I also got it because it's very similar to the 3-branch symbol for the Raven Boys, which are meant to represent ley lines. And lastly, on this arm is my wrist book, and this is just a simple little guy that I got, actually, again, with my dad. She's cute, she's simple, she delicately hints at the absolutely unhinged reader below the surface. Oh my god, we are freaking down the arms, thank god. As of September 2023, I have not gotten anything done besides my arms and my legs. I don't have anything on my back or on my chest, although I'm debating it. I know I've said on camera multiple times I don't ever want to get a back tattoo because I won't be able to see it, but I'm filling up, so my options are becoming more limited. I would love like an underbust chest piece, but I'm so nervous because that's like super bony and like the ribs are like #1 ouch zone, but at the same time, like I got both my shins tattooed and it was fine, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So right now I'm gonna move down to my legs, and since I don't feel like doing rocket kicks to get my legs up here, we're just gonna implement a lot of B-roll. One of the favorite tattoos that I have is the giant moth that I have on my thigh, so everybody say hello to Calliope. This is the same artist that did my Blackberries, and yet again, I did do this in one shot. I think this is about 5 hours long. It is big, and it is bold, and it is elegant, and the antennae came out so fuzzy looking. It's just so cute. I don't get to show this one off very often because I tend to like pants and also long skirts and dresses, so today, this is her time to shine, baby. I would highly recommend this artist, and I've actually gotten 2 more from her on the same leg, so let's just skip down there for now. First off, we have my little hummingbird. This is Magnolia. Hummingbirds are significant to my family and specifically my grandmother. This artist does detail unlike any other. The eyes are so glossy and the wings are so well shaded. I wanted to get this just as gap filler, but it turned out to be this sweet, lovely, lively tattoo. And my dad actually already has a hummingbird tattoo in his Blackberry sleeve, so we did a little tattoo swap. I got a hummingbird and he got a bee, which is the other little creature that I have on my leg from the same artist below my hummingbird. This is Winston Bartlebee. I have 2 bee tattoos. which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. He's so cute. He has this one leg that's just sticking right out, and his head is just like shiny, but also fuzzy. He's just puffy and fluffy and round, and I love him so much. And at the rate that we're both going, between my dad and I, soon we're gonna have a whole hive. Another tiny creature I got as a gap filler is featured below. My legs in particular are very symmetrical, and I had another tattoo on the opposite leg in that spot, so obviously I needed something to fill in the other leg to balance it out, so that's where Mirabelle comes in. My spooky, scary deer skeleton, which I got as part of a Halloween flash. She's elegant, she's fanciful, she has that leg out, she's prancing, she's working it. This tattoo is scary for another reason too, and that's, I literally do not remember a single thing about getting this tattoo. I swear I got to the studio, I laid down on that tattoo table, and then I blacked out for an hour and a half, and then this tattoo suddenly appeared on me. I don't know how she got there, and honestly at this point I'm too afraid to ask. On the front of this leg is the first shin tattoo that I got in 2023, and that is my pomegranate tattoo. In 2022, I went through a very large Hades and Persephone phase, which I would argue I'm still not out of. This pomegranate piece is a nod to the underworld with a split pomegranate, a full pomegranate, and then we also have a human jawbone, a single vertebrae caught up in the botanicals, and a sneaky tooth hiding down there at the bottom. It's beautiful, botanical, macabre piece of folklore, which, as somebody who grew up with Greek mythology as their obsession of choice as a child, what more could I ask for? On the outside of my calf, we have a snaky friend who holds a dark and deep secret. She's a cover-up. Medusa is a double-eyed fanged snake who runs through blackberries and tie-dye-esque looking flowers. She is fanged and dangerous, and she is also very dark because she is covering up a tattoo that I got before I knew how to properly advocate for putting permanent things on my body. And the flowers themselves look a little tie-dye because you can see the original tattoo peeking through, which I think is actually a pretty cool touch. If you want to hear the full story of that, you can check out my last tattoo tour. I'm sorry that I sound like I'm at the bottom of the well, but I did not use a microphone at that time. But TLDR is that I got a tattoo where the proportions didn't quite turn out the way that I had wanted them to, and my brain could not let it go. So eventually I did book a cover-up tattoo, and you know, they're not the most fun thing to get done. That one was my most painful tattoo. And if you want to know why, Google the science of getting a cover-up, okay? Science. Then again, I was also reading a horror novel while I was getting it done, so that may have added to the overall sense of unease and pain. But still, that artist was really great. She's the same person that did my jawbone, and she did that whole thing in 4 hours, which is insanity. Below Medusa is another piece of text, and that is actually the other tattoo that I got when I was in Scotland, and that is As Travars, which is a reference to A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, aka my second favorite book. Our main character, Kel, is a blood magician who can travel between different realities of London that all have varying degrees of magic, and As Travars is the magic words that he uses to portal to all these different Londons, and it means to travel. I also got it done when I was in Scotland because V.E. Schwab lives in Scotland, so that was just like a little homage. Now, actually, ankles hurt a surprising amount. I suppose because, yet again, it is thin skin and bone, but I would say that was more painful than my shin. So keep that in mind if you're like, oh, my first tattoo will be like nice and easy, I'll get it on my ankle. Don't do that. Finally, we're going to move all the way around to the back of my calf. We're going to talk about the first moth tattoo that I have. I have 2 moths on the back of my legs, and they are in reference to The Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I'm going to show them to you together because they're aptly named Lazlo and Sarai after the 2 star-crossed lovers in, yet again, one of my favorite books. The one on the right with the stars is Sarai, as she is a goddess of nightmares and moths, and the one on the left is Lazlo, who's our human who happens to stumble into a world of gods and monsters. And actually, fun fact, Lazlo used to be named Sarai, but I didn't feel like it fully fit that tattoo until I got a matching one on the other calf, and I was like, oh no, that one is Sarai. This one's definitely giving big Lazlo energy. These were done by 2 different artists with 2 different styles, but I really like how they mirror one another. I particularly love how my right leg came out. The way that the other tattoos wrap around where the moth is sitting is really, really beautiful. Sarai herself is gorgeous with all her curves and her moons and her little fuzzy antennae. And as a bisexual, I'm contractually obligated to have one kind of celestial moon moth on me at all times. So I just decided to buck up and get it tattooed, and now I don't have to worry about leaving the house without one. So to balance out the whimsy of Sarai, we have Lazlo, who is a much more realistic Spanish moon moth. A fun fact I learned about human physiology is that you often have one side of your body that is more sensitive than the other. The right side of my body is much less sensitive than the left side of my body, because getting Lazlo hurt like a fucking bitch. Back of the knee, man, that is a spicy spot. This was an artist I wanted to see for a really long time, and she did a beautiful moth flash, so I snatched him up right away, and every time I see him, I am once again wowed by the symmetry of his design and how much attention to detail and shading that this artist put in. He's the perfect little gentleman, and I love his placement. Hot coffee. It is now day 2 of me filming this tattoo tour because last week my SD card ran out of room, and by the time that I had recharged my camera and dumped all my files into the computer, I don't think there was an amount of money that you could have told me you would give me to start filming again that night. But here we are, new day, new coffee, new leg, actually. I only have one more limb to go over. I believe you already heard about Lazlo, so we are going to move to the very front of my leg and we're going to talk about my other shin tattoo. I got my dragon tattoo done from the same artist who did my other shin because I wanted a matching set. Now, I usually like to change up who I go to. I like to try out different artists, but I'm really happy that I chose the same artist who did my other shin because I think they go together so well. This tattoo in particular was inspired by my love of A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. Why wouldn't I want a permanent homage on my body to one of the most perfect high feminist fantasy books of all time? The florals around the dragon are orange blossoms. Even her name is significant. I have named this one Sabran. I'm a huge fan of Samantha Shannon, and I thought A Day of Fallen Night was even better than Priory of the Orange Tree. Her writing is just so good. She's really perfected her craft in this, and before I was even halfway done this book, I had booked a tattoo. This is also the only tattoo that I've ever done in 2 sessions, and let me be clear, that's what you're supposed to do. Your body and your skin and your physiology can only handle being needled for so long, and you're supposed to be able to split up tattoos and take breaks in between to let yourself heal and to let your nervous system calm down. But I'm a stubborn ass bitch who doesn't want to have to make 2 appointments. I don't want to have to come back. I want it all done in one go. So like, let's go, hurry it up. So I push myself, and that's why I hate myself by hour 4. I only split this one up because it was literally impossible for me to keep going. I did all of the line work first, and my artist told me that I would have to come back because my skin was basically freaking out and it was just too sore and sensitive and puffy to be able to do the shading that day. Although actually for the majority of it I was still reading Day of Fallen Night, so that was a good distraction to getting needled. I was getting a dragon put on me while reading about a dragon doing acts of mass destruction. Like, my artist is down on my leg like shading in something, and I'm at the top half of the table being like, whatever, and she's like, oh my god, are you okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. You're fine. It's just that, like, this dragon suddenly, like, came out of the earth and, like, there's fireballs going on. She's like, oh, yeah, that's great, and, like, kept going. She was a champ. On the inside of this calf is my matchy-matchy creature to Maribel, my undead deer, and that is my absolutely beautiful Titkok-famous jackalope named Glendower. Jackalopes are rabbits with antlers, and they are known in British folklore, and Glendower is the name of a famous Welsh king. He's honestly one of my favorite tattoos. He's fuzzy and dynamic, but he still has that one milky eye that gives him just a little bit, this little touch of macabre that I love. He also became accidentally TikTok famous. There's a couple of tattoos I have that, like, I've shown off online, and for some reason the algorithm has ticked that one up into like 500,000 views. So a lot of people know Glendower, but he is on my leg, so I do keep him covered. You know, not everyone can stand celebrity, but I did find out there's a surprising amount of people on the internet who saw that, who also have jackalope tattoos. So if you guys want to start a cult or something, like, hit me up. And on the outside of my calf, I have my spooky undead deer with what I call tree ring eyes. His name is Icabod. If you know me and my reading preferences even a little bit, you know that I love a fucked up deer. Something about sentient forests and forest gods with antlers, or monsters that can only be described by what they don't look like. Ooh, that is my shit right there. And it's one that I want to eventually get touched up because as he is very cool and I do love the texture of his eye, bones and animals were not that artist's specialty, and I probably should have gotten something that that artist specialized in. I do think that I would like to touch up Icabod to be even creepier and spookier at a later date. And lastly, oh my god, I can't believe I'm saying that after 2 whole days of filming. We have my last book tattoo, and that is a piece of script that comes from The Golden Book of Fairy by O.R. Melling. Also, if you've been with me on my channel for a little while, you know I love fairy folklore, and this is one of the very first fairy books that really captured that unsettling, eerie magic for me. It is also my only tattoo in color, but I thought that it was appropriate as it says, "Follow the Green Way." In particularly Celtic folklore, following the Green Way is a reference to finding the fairy courts, so you can also take the low road or the left path. And while I have yet to be swept off my feet and into another realm by a hot fae lord, you know, there's always time. I love having a reference to the fair folk and hope to one day walk upon that green way. And with that, that's that on that. You know the feeling when you don't eat enough in the morning but you drink too much coffee and then all the caffeine hits you at once and you feel like you simultaneously want to melt into the floor, have a heart attack, and run 6 times around the block? that just happened to me right now. I have a feeling that I'm gonna black out in a couple minutes, and then when I come to again, my entire house is gonna be clean. Thank you all for joining me on the 2023 tattoo tour, aka Rachel's third installment of showing you her tattoos. Please let me know down below if you yourself have any bookish tattoos, because I love to hear about them. As of this moment in time, I do not have any more tattoos booked or planned. But as you can see, I've spent quite a lot of money in the last year, and my savings account, my grandparents, and my skin are all telling me that I need to relax. I want to get some shading done, I want to get a little fairy creature, and, you know, more swords are never off the table. Plus, you never know what books or other folklorish creatures are gonna steal my heart in the next little while. I think I should go make myself an actual lunch, because I've had more coffee than I've had solid food today, and it's hitting. Plus, I know this video is probably gonna be 1,000 years long, and I wish to release both myself and you from these shackles. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!